and tonight's debate will play a critical role as voters prepare to cast their ballots ahead of the primary. It's a pleasure to partner with the United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey and 6ABC for tonight's debate. I'd like to thank Cozen O'Connor for sponsoring the debate and Scott Merkin of ESM Productions for producing this event. Now, on to the debate. Back to you, Matt.
Thank you, Shelley. Before we get started, let's take a look at the rules and the format for this debate that all of you have agreed to. The candidates' positions on the podium were set by random drawing earlier today. Questions for tonight's debate were developed by the Chamber, debate partner, the United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey, as well as us here at 6ABC. For the first segment, I will direct specific questions to an individual candidate who will have up to a minute to answer, and at my discretion, other candidates will have up to 30 seconds for a rebuttal. For the second segment, we will have more of a lightning round format with questions for each candidate, time permitted. And for the final segment, we ask the candidates to pose a single question to one of your opponents. If everyone sticks to their allotted times, and they can see a clock right here below me, we will have time at the end for 45-second closing comments for each candidate, so a little incentive to mind our P's and Q's here. All right, let's begin. First question, and I'd like to go straight across, no rebuttals for this one. This has been a long campaign. Who am I talking to, right? Having officially started last summer. Sometimes voters get bogged down with all the ads, the many community forums, 36 of which we've held here at 6ABC, no lie. The many volleys between the candidates, and sometimes the voters forget why you guys run it for this. Some of you gave up a job or left a job to run for this job. For those watching tonight, look into your heart, your soul. Take us to the moment that you decided, I'm running a campaign to be the 100th mayor of Philadelphia, and tell us, why do you want to lead this city? Jeff Brown, we start with you.
Thank you for the question. In my work experience, I've done transformational things. I've created 60,000 jobs for Philadelphians, often their first job, all from the neighborhoods. I've helped thousands of returning citizens turn their lives around. I've solved food deserts, making us one of the best, from one of the worst to one of the best in the country. All that experience, I'm looking at this city, and this city's in a crisis, and it's in a crisis related to poverty. That's my expertise. I believe you fix poverty, we're going to fix a lot of our other problems. I'm here to do that job. Help Philadelphians out of poverty. I don't want to be the poorest big city in the country. It's not sustainable. And I think we can grow our pie, and we could turn our fiscal situation around by helping people out of poverty so they could pay taxes instead of needing help all the time. That's my vision.
Thank you. Helen Gym.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I believe Philadelphia needs a transformative vision right now. Many candidates on this stage are running for an office, and I'm running to change the ways that people actually live in this city. I've led for 20 years an agenda that has talked about how we help communities come together to fix our public school system, to invest in stronger and safer communities, and to make sure that we leave behind the status quo politics that have held Philadelphia behind for so long. It's why I believe that safe neighborhoods and communities are ones that actually invest in people. Safe communities are those that are clean and vibrant. Safe youth are those who are educated and supported year-round. And safe neighbors know that healthcare, housing, and real economic opportunity are a right, and that's what I'm here to deliver as mayor. A real plan to fix our crumbling school system, a guaranteed jobs and employment plan for young adults, and to make sure that our city services actually deliver the clean and green environment that our neighborhoods and neighbors actually want. I look forward to having that conversation too.
Thank you. Rebecca Rhynhart.
I decided to run for mayor after 5 years as the independently elected city controller. And as controller, I was calling out the issues and putting forth thoughtful solutions to fix the issues. But that is where the power of my office ended. As mayor, I can and will make the change happen to fix our city. I am the right person to lead our city forward in this critical moment. I know the city's budget inside and out from being the budget director. I've managed 1,000 employees as the chief administrative officer of the city and gotten things done. I can hit the ground running on day one to fix our city, making it safer and cleaner and fixing our schools. And I have the courage to make the hard decisions to lead us forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Cherelle Parker.
Philadelphia, Like many of you, I believe our city is at a crossroads. Because my personal lived life experience has been closest to those feeling the most pain in our city, I am uniquely qualified to make the tough decisions necessary to bring order back to our city and end this sense of lawlessness that is prevailing. And we will do that by making Philadelphia the safest, cleanest, and greenest big city in the nation that provides access to economic opportunity for all. Right now, Philadelphia doesn't need a manager. We have a managing director to do that, but we need a leader whose decision-making will bring hope and pride back to our city and allow our residents to feel safe in their homes.
Thank you. Almond Brown.
I'm running for mayor to give our city a fresh start and a new beginning. I'm running for mayor because our young people are hopeless right now. And I'm running for mayor to protect each and every one of you, every resident, every family, every community. No community will be overlooked, no longer, and I will be a mayor for everybody. So I'm running for mayor to give us that new beginning we so desperately need. And as your mayor, I will guarantee you this city will be safe, and we will become the #1 city in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Allan Domb.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm running for mayor because Philadelphia is in crisis. The biggest crisis is a public safety crisis, but we also have an education crisis, good paying jobs crisis, housing crisis, and a poverty and education crisis. The biggest crisis we have is a crisis of leadership, because strong leadership can solve these problems, and that's what this race is about. Who can be the best leader to lead the city of Philadelphia going forward? This is a turning point election. The future of our city is at stake, and I'm running because I came here with nothing, and the city was amazingly good to me, as it was to many people. And I want to just give back to the city I love. I'm willing to do whatever I can to help Philadelphia. I spent many years in the private sector. I spent almost 7 years in the public sector getting things done. And my goal is to help our city provide that leadership that is desperately needed. Leadership is the key. With strong leadership, we can solve these issues, bring people together, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. We need to bring people together to solve these problems, and that's why I'm running for mayor.
I hope that would be a good warm-up, and I think it was, so thank you. All right, let's get going. The Diverse Chambers Coalition surveys small businesses twice a year. Its latest survey asked them if they would recommend Philadelphia as a place to do business. 100 was a perfect score, -100 was the worst. Small business owners gave the city a -50. It's like being booed at Lincoln Financial Field. Helen Gym, this question to you. And you remember when my esteemed colleague Jim Gardner during a forum asked you why people think you're the anti-business candidate. So if you can comment on that and also explain how you would improve the city's reputation as a place to do business.
Yes, well, obviously I think that is a BS argument. I am pro-people, pro-Philadelphia, and I think that is great for business. Oftentimes when people talk about me as being anti-business, they often talk about the fact that they think I'm pro-worker, and I absolutely do not believe that being pro-worker is being anti-business. I have leaned into the core areas that I think businesses have talked about, which is a safe, clean and affordable Philadelphia with an educated workforce. I believe that is absolutely compatible. I've talked to a number of different businesses that want to make sure that Philadelphia is an easier place, which is why I've talked about business service hubs in neighborhoods and communities to make sure that we clear up complicated issues around permitting, around revenues, and that we're much more friendly towards small businesses. I've talked about targeted tax cuts as opposed to broad-based corporate tax cuts that help small and local businesses. But at my heart, I truly believe that when Philadelphia is a place that residents want to be, we will be the place that others want to be as well.
Cherelle Parker, as a potential rebuttal or maybe just an expansion on this, you quite possibly are the most well-connected candidate due to your time in state and city government. How do you shed the idea that this could make some people believe you're part of the problem rather than the solution?
I would say to take a look at what I've done and don't simply listen to what I say. I represented the 9th Councilmatic District in Philadelphia. It has some of the best recreation centers, some of the cleanest commercial corridors, and community policing has worked in my neighborhood. I am not an expert articulator of problems and/or a commissioner of audits. My job has been to lead and get things done. And I am proud that I have to support small businesses, offer Power Up Your Business to support them.
Jeff Brown, let me move to you on this for a rebuttal. You don't have any political experience, the only one up here on the podium. How do you have the know-how to nurture a better business climate from City Hall when you've never experienced government yourself?
Well, I experienced the city, and it's rough. I've been here 35 years. This is a city that vilifies businesses. That's way too complicated to do anything and taxes us incredibly. I mean, one of the highest tax cities in the country. I have dealt with the council and the administration. I know exactly what's wrong with this city. What we need is someone from the outside to question what they've accepted, because I don't accept it. We're not getting anywhere if businesses can't grow here.
Allan Domb, you are so wealthy you've been able to donate millions to your own campaign. How can you identify with the small business owners of the city who struggle to make ends meet on a daily basis?
Well, first of all, I started with zero and I built my business successfully. But I will say, to answer your question on that, the problem with Philadelphia is we have the highest wage taxes in the country. And we have some of the highest business taxes in the country. And we double tax businesses. Just to give you an example, if you're an entrepreneur, a small one in New York City, you're paying 16.2% local and state combined. The second highest in the country is Philadelphia at 15.9. The third highest in the United States is California, 8.8, and Chicago, 7. We're at 15.9.
Thank you very much. I want to talk, and we'll come back to business. I want to talk about violence. A group called the Civic Coalition to Save Lives formed last year and is now led by city and state government veteran Estelle Richmond, whom all of you know. Its mission is to end Philadelphia's gun violence epidemic. Its roster of collaborators shares one common trait. None of them are elected to solve this problem, and yet all of them are volunteering to do it. Why haven't our elected leaders and their appointees been able to solve a gun violence problem that has claimed too many lives, ruined too many families, and has so many parents and children afraid to go out in broad daylight? Rebecca Rhynhart.
Well, I've put forth solutions and been very active in the issue of gun violence since 2019. I called on Mayor Kenney to implement the proven strategies that have been shown to work in other cities. Group violence intervention, focused deterrence, cure violence, cognitive behavior therapy. When he wouldn't implement those strategies with the urgency that I believe necessary, I went out and worked with Councilmember Gautier in West Philadelphia, calling on the mayor to invest in the neighborhoods most impacted by the violence. To me, this is about a lack of leadership in the mayor's office. And as mayor, on day one, I will prioritize gun violence. I will implement the proven intervention strategies. I will call the DA and the police commissioner into the room and say we must get on the same page with illegal guns. We can do this, but we need a strong mayor, and that's what I'll be.
Thank you. Almond Brown, you're the only candidate here who has been shot. It happened while you were in high school. You mentioned this often while suggesting that this is a strength for your candidacy. Why do you think that?
Having a actual physical experience and seeing both sides, having a mother who thought she was going to lose a child, and we lost far too many children in the last this last mayor's administration. So that lived experience gives me a seat at the table to solve the problem, because I see both sides. And we have to hold people accountable. There's a small percentage of individuals that are committing violent crimes every single day, and we must remove them from our streets.
Jeff Brown, you are endorsed by the local FOP. It's a strong lobby for police rank and file. How do you convince residents that you won't side with the police on every issue, like, say, instances of police brutality or excessive force like we saw on the Vine Street Expressway during the George Floyd protests?
Well, to start out with, I've been endorsed by almost every police organization, the Temple Police, the Transit Police, the Guardian Civic League, which is the black police officers. And every one of them, I've been very frank about where I want to take policing in this city. And we need to have an equitable system that protects us. And I have a very detailed plan. I went through it with them. And all of them told me my leadership background and my management skills and the plan I have is exactly what's needed. I'm endorsed 100% by all of their boards.
Cherelle Parker, you have said you would like to put 300 more police officers on the street right away. How can you do that when so many current officers are on leave and when the department has had trouble recruiting new officers?
So when I introduced my comprehensive neighborhood safety and community policing plan, I also introduced legislation that would have allowed the city of Philadelphia to rehire retirees as temporary employees so that we could get able-bodied officers away from desk and on the street, walking the street and riding the bike. I realized after I introduced my legislation that the city has the ability to do that right now. It just needs a leader with the gumption to do so.
Helen Gym, you have always been known as an education advocate, yet some of your first TV ads address crime. How do you convince voters that you're going to be effective with that issue as well, crime?
First of all, I mean, one of the conversations that you're hearing right now is that there is a top-down, police-heavy approach towards solving crime, and I think that's one of our biggest problems that we've got. I've been very clear that the violence in our city is directly rooted in disinvestment in individuals and in neighborhoods and communities, and thus a safety agenda really needs to lean into an investment agenda. That's why my plan around safety talks about mental health first responders being deployed out onto the streets, making sure that we have guaranteed employment for young adults who are impacted in neighborhoods and communities, and delivering city services that actually clean up and brighten up our streets.
Allan Domb, I could ask this question of any of the former city council members on the stage here. You spent 6 years in city council in an at-large seat. Why didn't the city see much of a difference in gun violence while you were in council?
Great question. Look, I did put in a resolution supported by all council members in council asking the administration back in December of 21 to analyze the $200 million we invested in gun violence prevention by utilizing our academic institutions like St. Joe's, like Temple, like Drexel, Penn, and others to tell us of these programs, which ones are saving lives and which ones are not saving lives. I don't know anyone in the world who would invest $200 million and not check to make sure it's saving lives. Administration and the mayor never did it. And so we're seeing today some of these programs are successful, like GVI, but some of them are not successful. We need to really investigate and determine which ones are saving lives and which ones are not.
My apologies, the clock is wrong. You got a little bit more time, but I'll give the rest of you, we'll make it up somehow. Let's move on to another topic here, poverty. Outgoing City Council President Darrell Clarke announced more than 3 years ago our moonshot. He aimed to move 100,000 Philadelphians out of poverty by 2024, next year. The program has seen successes, but in the end, Philadelphia, as was already mentioned, remains one of the poorest cities in the country. People are finding work, but not good enough work, with some living on wages of only $13,000 per year. Affordable housing is dwindling. Home renters want to become homeowners, but can't. Cherelle Parker, you were endorsed by City Council President Darrell Clarke. How would you bring these people hope as mayor?
Great question. Begin to put people on a path to self-sufficiency and get them off of the poverty hamster wheel. And we cannot do that without a radical change in how we deliver public education. I have called for year-round public education and not just children sitting at a desk getting traditional academic instruction, but making sure that every industry that is thriving in our city is training our children and, quite frankly, adults who are unemployed and underemployed to fill those roles so that they can earn a living wage, or own their own home, take care of their own families, and be on the path to self-sufficiency. In addition to that, I have a plan to build 30,000 units of affordable housing, mixed use, market rate, and affordable. Our children will be trained to build those houses with the support of skilled workers in the building trades and for every industry that's thriving, like life sciences and biotech.
Thank you. Almond Brown, you have skipped many of the forums that community groups have staged in this race. How can the most needy expect you to show up for them when it counts?
Yes, because while the forums were being had, I was actually in those same communities helping the communities in need, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Being a current state representative and a public servant first, I choose to be with the people, touching the flesh, sitting in their living rooms, and listening to their problems to come up with real solutions, and the one-on-ones have been working extremely well.
And by the way, these rebuttals, raise your hand if you have something you want to bring up. Rebecca Rhynhart, the last two mayors, Michael Nutter and John Street, have endorsed you. And that may be a plus to some voters, but others may seem to think that that means more of the same when it comes to living in a city with extreme poverty. So how do you push back on that idea?
Well, I'm proud of having the endorsements of both mayors, and there are certain things that I would do differently than both, but one thing is for certain, they both know what it takes to run a city like Philadelphia. They've run it. So their endorsement means a lot because they're saying that I'm the most qualified and capable on day one to run Philadelphia. On the issue of poverty, I have a poverty plan, which I could get into more detail if I had more time. RebeccaForPhiladelphia.com.
The way things are run, all of you agreed to it. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. Allan Domb, you had your hand raised. Some people call you the condo king. Some of your critics claim that you develop real estate for the wealthy to the detriment of the poor. So offer a response to that.
I just want to comment about the poverty for a moment. And this is a public service announcement. We leave on the table $450 million in federal, state, and local benefits that Philadelphians qualify for. United Way does a great job. For every dollar we invest in United Way, they get back $9 to $10 to people. We need to invest more in United Way, Campaign for Working Families, and Benefits Data Trust. $450 million, Matt, we leave on the table. Earned income tax credit alone is $100 million that 35,000 families can get $2,000 to $6,000 refunds. We need to get that money out.
Jeff Brown.
Look, the people on the stage don't have much experience in helping people out of poverty. I've helped an incredible number of people out of poverty. I mean, I don't have time for the resume. This is our real problem. All our other problems come from an excessive amount of poverty. This is the problem to solve, and that's why my experience is valuable at this time.
I think everyone's responded except for you, Helen Gym, so go ahead.
Thank you, Matt. No, I've been very clear that Philadelphia is not just a city full of poor people. This is a city that keeps its people poor. And it does it, whether intentional or not, by policies that have been set in place and by a status quo attitude that looks at poverty as being solved merely by charity and not by fundamental change. And that's why my agenda does lean in. I've actually led things like delivering the most successful eviction prevention program in the country that kept thousands of people housed, making sure that we led on new labor laws that allowed people to have larger incomes by having more hours on the job, and also ensuring that we deliver a quality public school system to all.
Let's talk about schools. Despite transferring the Philadelphia School District back to local control in 2017, changing superintendents, increasing funding, consolidating school buildings, closing others due to asbestos, children in city schools are still behind. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, the nation's report card as it's known, was released back in the fall of last year, ranked Philadelphia's schools near the bottom of the 26 districts that participated. Now, voters may be skeptical when anyone tells them they have the answer to improving the city's education system suddenly. So when it comes to having the answer, Allan Brown, how are you different?
Yeah, I'm different because I'm a fair person, transparent, and the school board that we're going to appoint will not have any bias one way or the other. They will not be solely for traditional public or charter. We're going to have an unbiased, hand-picked school board who are going to be fair to all students in our city.
We have a couple teachers here, former teachers, Cherelle Parker, Helen Gym.
Extremely important that we use a different approach in advocating in Harrisburg. Anyone thinking that Philadelphia can solve our public education crisis alone, they're living in la-la land. We need a very strong intergovernmental cooperative planning arrangement, and there's no one running in this race who has more proven intergovernmental experience than I have, and I'm willing to put my skills to work to deliver for my city as I have proven time and time again.
Helen Gym, you fought the growth of charter schools, even though you founded the Folk Art Cultural Treasures Charter School. Why should voters think you're not on both sides of this issue?
Because I'm very clear that I'm the first mayor to actually invest in and believe in a public school system. Every single mayor before me has turned his back on the public schools or has failed to fulfill their promise. And let me make something very clear. If anybody thinks that Harrisburg is going to come rescue us on the schools issue, they are living in la-la land. I'm very clear that you need to deliver a homegrown, community-led and Philadelphia-led vision for how to actually modernize our schools. I'm the only candidate on the stage to be able to do that. I'm the only candidate with a 20-year track record on delivering actual quality schools and a big movement to make it happen.
Jeff Brown.
We're not doing this right. Our kids are on long waiting lists to get to college-bound schools or schools that are excellent at helping kids get to college. We've really diminished career and technical education at our detriment. Most of our young people want to follow that path. That would be a path out of poverty. And there's no plan for our buildings. They have asbestos, leaky roofs, and they're half full. And we're just squandering our money because of the lack of thoughtfulness and planning.
And Rebecca Rhynhart, maybe if I can zero in on this with you. You have said you want schools to be more accountable to seek improvements. Where is the public school system not accountable right now?
Well, my daughter is in 7th grade in the public school system, and I believe strongly that every child should have a good public school. What we need and what we don't have right now is a plan with clear goals and metrics to achieve progress that all stakeholders agree to. That's the superintendent, that's the school board, that's parents, and that's educators. And we all have to agree on those metrics and agree to certain levels of improvement. That needs to happen in addition to more state funding.
Thank you.
Both need to happen, and that's the way I'll lead as mayor.
Let's talk about the money. Maria Quinones-Sanchez dropped out of this race and said the obnoxious, obscene amount of money that is shaping the race just got away from us. More than $20 million has been collectively spent on this race. The city has rules on how much individuals and groups can give each candidate, no limits on how much individual candidates can donate of their own money. Super PACs can spend unlimited amounts provided they do not coordinate with campaigns. We will get to that. Let me start with you, Allan Domb. You are not supported by any super PAC. We've mentioned already you're funding your own campaign with your own millions of dollars of money. Why should wealthy people seem to have an easier pathway to this office?
Well, first of all, I came here with nothing. City was great to me. I invested in Philadelphia. City invested in me. It's my way of giving back. And I think the future of the city is crucial. I think Philadelphia is important. No one owns me. I'm independent. The only people that really own me are the citizens of this city. I have no ties to anybody other than doing the best job possible. I made that decision to invest in our city because I feel it's so important, the future of Philadelphia. And let me say this, Matt, I grew up basic. I was shining shoes for 25 cents when I was 5 years old. I had 2 paper routes when I was 11. I understand the value of a dollar, and I still understand the value of a dollar. For this investment for me is because I love Philadelphia, and I'm concerned about our future. And we need the right leadership, and that's why I'm making that investment.
I want to go to you, Jeff Brown, and I think I'd like to have a full minute for you, even though this is a rebuttal, because this has been such a big part of the campaign, especially recently. The PAC for a Better Philadelphia spent $3 million to boost your campaign. The Super PAC's reps agreed to stop supporting any individual candidate as part of a court case on Monday. The Ethics Board still has a lawsuit against this very PAC, which may not be resolved until after everyone votes in this primary. Who is donating to this group, and why do they want you to be mayor so badly?
I don't know who's donating because you can't coordinate, but the Ethics Board settled the case. And they settled the case because they didn't have a case. They wouldn't have settled it any other way. And so let's make that clear. But the laws that were set by Citizen United, we all have to live within those laws. We certainly would not have made those laws. And to be competitive as a mayoral candidate, you need to raise money. That's the job.
Does anyone want to jump in on this? Helen
let me make it clear. The Ethics Board didn't settle the case. The case has been continued and will probably be settled after this election, which should raise alarm bells for every single voter here. I'm a candidate who's actually raised the most amount of money from Philadelphians themselves. 72% of my donors are Philadelphians. Other candidates in this race are wholly funded by building trades unions and others. Cherelle Parker's, I think, campaign is 2/3 funded this year by 15 building trades unions. This should be an election for the people. I think my campaign shows that.
Cherelle Parker.
As mayor, rest assured, we're going to close the gaps between regular Philadelphians and those who are wealthy so that anyone who is interested in running for public office to serve our city, they will have the ability to do so, and money won't be a challenge. In addition to that, Helen, here you are again with your faulty math. You can't give an answer without showing your work. I am proud to be the candidate in this race with most of my donors coming from Philadelphia.
That's simply not true.
Allan Brown, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to say that I am the only campaign who is people-powered because we strongly believe money is not going to win this race. We have serious problems in our city right now, and throwing dollar signs at it, it's not going to fix it.
You have received support from a super PAC.
Absolutely not.
Cherelle Parker, Rebecca Rhynhart, Helen Gym all received support of super PACs?
Super PAC, you can't coordinate with
Yeah,
a
you
super
can't.
PAC, so
Right.
can't answer.
And unlike Jeff Brown, our super PACs actually disclose their donors.
Jeff Brown.
I want to point out that almost everyone up here has had ethics problems and have had claims.
That's not
and
true.
Helen
That's
is one of the, I didn't say everyone, I said almost everyone.
That's not true.
And Helen was one of the largest ones.
That's
Go ahead, Helen.
Well, first of all, that's not true. You have me confused with Allan Domb, who actually had a conflicts of interest fine lodged against him on ethics. So I have not had any ethics issues with our campaign, and I've been very clear about that. Unlike you, Jeff, who has actually had an full-on ethics investigation on an unprecedented level, to the point that the ethics board had to sue you and had to get involved in a way that we've never seen in this election actually before.
I think I need to have Allan Domb in here to say a few words if you'd like.
Sure, I had one violation to my knowledge, and I didn't vote on the bill, but I didn't disclose why I didn't vote on the bill. I didn't know that, and that was the violation.
5 seconds.
But let me say this, Matt. I have a Claire Finkelstein from University of Penn who did a full ethics plan for me. She did President Biden's plan, and I will put that in place. She's excellent.
Rebecca, did you? Rebecca,
I just wanted to say about the campaign that I've been running, which is 78% funded with Philly donors, 51% gave $100 or less. That's what this is about. Yes, money is a part of politics, but it's about, it should be about a grassroots effort, and that's what I'm leading here.
Larry Krasner, Daniel Outlaw here. The next mayor will work with the district attorney over the last 2 years of his second term. We'll decide whether to retain Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw. We'll confront issues like stop and frisk, police recruitment and diversity of the force, police funding levels, and how some officers are taking advantage of the Pennsylvania Lung and Heart Program, which gives injured officers a 20% raise while on disability. Cherelle Parker, you support stop and frisk policies to reduce crime. Some people say these same policies are leading to people getting targeted by race. How do you resolve that, and what do you think about the district attorney and the police commission?
So first things first, I am the candidate who offered the legislation that put an end to unconstitutional stop and frisk here in the city of Philadelphia. And I am proud that I gave Philadelphians a voice in that effort. In addition to that, I support what is called Terry stops. That means that any law enforcement officer must have just cause and reasonable suspicion that a crime is occurring, will occur. And I am unapologetic about being willing to use every tool, legal tool in the toolbox to make our public safety and health our #1 priority. In addition to that, we can't forget about the convening power of the mayor. I will bring the best and the brightest from across the nation and here in our great city to help to advance my agenda to make us the safest, cleanest, and greenest big city in the nation that provides access to opportunity for all. And it won't be finger pointing about who didn't do what. I'm going to unify our city and bring people together.
Otherwise known as constitutional stop and frisk for people at home. Allan Domb, you want to bring Daniel Outlaw back?
I've seen Daniel Outlaw, and I want to give her the opportunity to interview her. I believe her hands have been tied. I've seen this several times that her hands are tied. So we'll give her the opportunity. I look at it this way, Matt. If the Eagles are losing, do you fire the coach or do you fire the quarterback? I believe you fire the coach. I would give her an opportunity to perform. If she can't perform, then I'll seek another police commissioner.
Helen Gym, you've given public support to the district attorney, Larry Krasner. How do you resolve that when many people in the city believe his policies are not working and are actually making crime worse?
Well, Larry Krasner is an elected official and duly elected by the city, by the citizens of this city. And it is my responsibility to ensure that there is a unified approach towards how we take a look at crime and charging and prosecutions and responsibility. Under my administration, I believe that I'll be the person to actually lead a unified voice so that businesses, residents, police officers, and Philadelphia understands that we are going to have a common approach. We're going to hold people accountable. We're going to make sure that justice is swift, fair, and certain. And I think that I can do that with all the people involved.
You've been the most critical of the district attorney. Why is that?
You said it. A lot of our citizens feel as though he's failing us. His policies do not work in communities, especially like where I come from. and specifically is catch and release policies. Our law enforcement officers, they are catching the repeat violent offenders, but then they're being released back into my community, and that is not okay. We have thousands of open violent bench warrants, and we have these same individuals running around with ski masks on. That's why my public safety plan will ban ski masks day one.
And Jeff Brown, back to your support of the FOP, how can you promise the citizens that you're going to bring law and order, but not at the same time violate their rights?
A good relationship with unions is how you do it, because there has to be a trusting relationship for change, that they know that I won't take advantage of them, but we need to make change. I'm going to tell you, this is a failure of management more than unions. Like, for example, the people that are out on heart and lung, why didn't the city investigate them? If they're committing a fraud, then they should be taken up in charges. But instead, they do take the easy way out. They just blame everyone they can. That's the political way. That's not my way. Manage to solve this
Rebecca
problem.
Rhynhart?
Yes, well, the job of the mayor is to bring the criminal justice partners together, and that's what I'll do. So as city controller, I did research that showed that the police doubled the arrests for illegal carry over the last 5 years. But the district attorney's conviction rate has gone down from 65 to 42%. As mayor, I will pull them into a room and say, we must row in the same direction. If there are issues, we have to figure them out and to crack down on illegal guns. This is the job of the mayor, and that's what I'll do.
Forgive me, a lot of candidates up here. Did you raise your hand, Cherelle Parker?
You must have felt my energy. Before, it was a popular thing to do when others were shouting and wanted us to lead with slogans like defund the police. I introduced a comprehensive plan that people told me could get me canceled. We have to have a comprehensive approach. It is not either or. We can have zero tolerance for any misuse and or abuse of authority by law enforcement while embracing community policing, where officers are a part of the fabric of our community, walking the beat, riding a bike, getting to know the people they're serving.
Thank you. While I was on council, I formed a public safety cabinet consisting of the police commissioner, DA, U.S. Attorney's Office, Attorney General's Office, FBI, ATF, and we had the courts in once in a while. I would convene had 8 or 9 meetings. I would convene that day one. I'd have weekly meetings. I'd conduct myself, whether they take an hour or 6 hours, including Eds and Meds security and including PATCO and SEPTA security. And the goal would be to reduce the homicides, prosecute retail theft, and prosecute illegal gun violations.
We must talk taxes because let's move on to the next topic. Taxes, everyone's favorite topic, of course. Philadelphia is already the most heavily taxed city in the country, or one of them. Many of you are proposing big idea policies, and that might mean higher taxes. The city, as you know, must balance its budget or borrow to pay the difference. So, Jeff Brown, who will you tax or what will you cut to fund your City Hall agenda?
Well, to start out with, if you look at it, my experience is in the grocery business where you work on almost no margin, and I have a unionized grocery business, and I figured out how to make it work. So I know how to manage a budget, and I know how to spend within my limits. We can't afford any more taxes in this city. We really are taxed incredibly high, and we need to work these taxes down over time. The biggest windfall we could have, get people to work. Instead of needing help, they can contribute and grow the economy. That's what I'm going to be focused on, and that new revenue will help us reduce taxes over time.
Helen Gym, you saw the Inquirer editorial released today complaining that you have a lot of plans and you're not telling anyone how you can pay for it as mayor.
So I hope I get a minute for this one.
I'll give you leeway.
I've made it very clear that I'm the only candidate on the stage to actually have a clear plan to both fix our crumbling school systems, to invest in our neighborhoods, and to lift up our city and guarantee safety. What I'm not going to do is make broad-based promises about how we end up subsidizing wealthy things or promise corporate tax cuts when we have real need to actually solve and deliver city services.
Keep going, by the way.
Candidates who are up here who are talking about slashing tax cuts, without any understanding of what the impact is going to be on the budget, without actually having a vision for how to support services, are not being honest with the voters here. And so my plan has been very clear. We've laid out a very clear plan about both how to fund and how to deliver these things. And what I won't do is tell our young people that 10 years from now, they don't have access to quality schools, that they don't have air conditioning when Lower Merion is building a $90 million public middle school for their 10-year-olds. I'm not going to leave our kids behind.
Rebecca Rhynhart, as city controller, you audit the city, departments, sort of like a Monday morning quarterback. What I've heard is that it's one thing to audit and it's another thing to lead and manage. How do you differentiate between the two, and how do you tell the voters you can do both?
Sure. Well, as city controller, I led an executive office. I was the head of the controller's office. I'm the only one on the stage with city executive experience. The last mayor that Philadelphia had with city executive experience was Mayor Ed Rendell, who was the district attorney and ran the DA's office before becoming mayor. So I've ran the controller's office. I did it well. It's a unionized workforce, and I got results. And as mayor, I can hit the ground running on day one.
I haven't heard anyone say whether or not they'll raise taxes. Cherelle Parker, you're up next.
If Philadelphia takes care of its home base and we make our city safer and cleaner and provide access to economic opportunity for all, we will grow our economy because we will have more homeowners and we will have more Philadelphians earning a living wage and contributing to the economic pie that helps to keep our city going.
So no, you won't have to.
I won't have to. We're going to grow Philadelphia's economy, but we must take care of the basics first.
I'll go back to you over there on the left. Almond Brown, taxes. Are they going up, down, you as mayor?
Definitely going down. We plan to eliminate the BERT tax and reduce others. But once you look at our affordable housing plan, where we plan to give a line item to PHA to build no more units, and then eventually those homes flip over into the residents or the tenants into their name and become homeowners, and will increase taxes. And then growing the economy by making our city attractive to small businesses, which is going to bring more tax revenue to our city.
Growing the economy so you don't have to raise taxes sounds like a Republican idea to me. Allan Domb, what do you think?
Well, you know, 8 years ago, Matt, we had a budget that was $4 billion. Today it's $6 billion. Went up 50% in 8 years. 50%. $2 billion increase. There's plenty of money in our budget to do many of these programs. And while I was on council, I found money, for example, in the delinquent collection of delinquent taxes. We were at 89% rate when I started. In 2019, we got to a 96% rate, collecting an extra $125 million a year in delinquent taxes, and reassessing commercial properties so they're accurate. We got another $125 million.
We could real quick, Rebecca Rhynhart, Helen Gym, Jeff Brown, you want to take a tax pledge right now?
Yeah.
Yes?
Well, I would like to say just something about taxes.
Could you do it real quick, though? I mean, yes or no?
Yes, I mean, the taxes are way too high, so
Okay.
to me, the taxes need to
Helen
go
Gym?
down.
Absolutely not. I believe that what the city needs is a real investment in its neighborhoods, its communities, and especially its schools. And I'm going to be evaluating things accordingly, not just making random pledges.
And real quick, Jeff Brown.
I'm not for new taxes. Matter of fact, I think we need some kind of restraint on how we reassess real estate taxes. We've been throwing people out of their homes, and we should commit to long-term tax reduction.
Let's talk about support. Former mayoral candidate Sam Katz estimates the victor of this primary, who will very likely win the general election, yeah, I said it, given independents now outnumber Republicans in the city, could win with fewer than 60,000 votes. 60,000 votes in a city with 1.1 million registered voters and 1.5 million residents. Helen Gym, how do you promise you will be a leader for the vast majority of people that did not vote for you?
Yeah, so I've tried to lead from the outside for a very long time. I've always been somebody who tries to pull large tables together to have a big vision for what the city both needs and deserves. We're going to need that more than ever as we build out a big vision for how we're going to support our public school systems, how we're going to actually invest in neighborhoods. I've talked a lot about the importance of guaranteed employment for young adults who are in hardest hit neighborhoods, and especially for our youth. This requires all people to come to the table. I've actually been able to do it. I've helped build out one of the most successful eviction prevention programs in the country. I delivered safe, clean drinking water to every single child across the city of Philadelphia and helped massively expand labor rights for individuals who often didn't have a stable and supportive schedule. I know how to build and bring people together, but you do that not just by getting along, on any given moment. You do that by actually having a big vision, pulling people together and saying we all need to do something a little bit differently than we've done before.
I know
I'm
it's
not here to manage a crisis.
I know this is a wide race, and that this is why this could happen. But I just can't emphasize enough. 60,000 votes. That's less than the population of Center City could decide a mandate for the person who potentially could run the city for 8 more years?
Matt, listen, my bar is much higher than 60,000. I am proud of the extremely diverse coalition that we have built from the Northeast to the river to South Philly to North Philadelphia, Northwest, West Philadelphia, and Southwest Philadelphia. And we do not change our messaging depending on the race, class, or socioeconomic status of the constituency that we're talking to. Philadelphians are yearning for authenticity right now in leadership, and that coalition has come together, and I'm proud.
Anyone else want to talk about this? We have a couple minutes left. Jeff Brown.
Yeah, if you look at my background, I mean, I manage a business that's in a lot of the neighborhoods of the city that are very diverse. And I have a coalition of unions, but I also have a coalition of business people. I have the most experience in serving everybody. Even if they don't agree at first, look at my track record.
Rebecca Rhynhart.
So I've gotten over 100,000 votes citywide in my run for city controller. What I will say to that is that we need to increase voter participation. And the way to do that is to actually increase the trust. And that's what I've been doing, going neighborhood to neighborhood, telling people exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to follow through for them, like I did as city controller in the neighborhoods as well.
I think we had a hand here, Allan Brown.
Yeah, no one watching, no one sitting in this room is happy with our current conditions right now. That's the reality. And we're boots on the ground. We're all over the city. We're knocking doors. And like I said earlier, we're in the living rooms. People want change. And it's time for young people to step up and take care of our elders and show our children that you can be somebody. So what we're getting back is that, and this is from black, white, young, old, male, female. It's young people's time to step up.
Thank you.
I'm 35 years old and I'm ready to work.
More questions for the candidates when we come right back.
There's promise, as in potential, possibility. Then there's a promise, as in commitment. Together, they become the promise. A movement to challenge Philadelphia's poverty crisis 100,000 neighbors at a time. The promise is both our potential as a city and a pledge. That is one Philadelphia, united.
We can create change.
At the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, we have really great members. They represent businesses of all types throughout our 11-county region. Together with our members and partners, the Chamber works really hard to build a stronger business climate in the region. Ahead of the election in Philadelphia, we have prioritized policies that will create more family-sustaining jobs, as well as foster business growth. We need our elected officials to do the same. Our businesses want what everybody wants, what residents want, what their employees want. Clean streets. They want safety. They want a business environment where they know what to expect in order to be successful in the city. We want a stronger Philadelphia where everyone can grow and thrive. Learn more about Philadelphia's candidates for mayor and city council by visiting our election hub, where you'll find lots of resources about the candidates so you can be informed.
Welcome back to the 2023 Democratic mayoral debate. We're going to continue with some questions for our candidates here. Ernest Owens of the Philadelphia Inquirer noted that, or from Philadelphia Magazine, noted that not only has every single mayor been a man, the city has also had a Democratic mayor for every term since 1952. Owens then writes, the only conclusion is that the source of Philly's systemic racism is the local Democratic Party. Given you are all Democrats, how do you respond? Rebecca Rhynhart.
I think that the entrenchment of the establishment here in Philadelphia is a problem. And it's something that I've fought against since first running for office in 2017. I ran against a long-term incumbent, against the Democratic Party candidate. I had the support of one Democratic ward leader out of 69, and I won with 58% of the vote, which shows the change that people want in this city. And as city controller, I've stood up for what's right. I've gotten into fights with Mayor Kenney when necessary to fight for change. We need change, and there are historical racist policies and practices that are built in to city services right now in service inequity, and I will lead that charge to fix it. We need to do better. I am the candidate standing up here that has fought against the status quo as an elected official, and that's why I'm running for mayor, to make this city work for people.
Unlike in Washington, where you can blame the other party when things go wrong, like I stated, only one party has run this city for more than 50 years. Anyone else want to jump in on this?
I want to say, Matt, as a black woman who has had to live life at the intersection of gender and race, this is a historic moment, but I am not running to become a footnote in somebody else's history book. But I do instead want to prove to the people of our city that we can make government work for them again, and they will be able to see it in the improvement of their daily lives, and that any child, girl or boy, no matter their race, class, or socioeconomic status, they will have access to the opportunity to lead.
Almond Brown.
Yes, it's no secret. I went against the party in 2020 and won with the power of the people again. If we don't elect me as mayor, nothing's going to change. We need a fresh start and a new beginning. How we are operating right now is not working for no one in this city, and we deserve a whole lot better than what we have right now.
Jeff Brown, you had your hand up.
The problem is the powerful forces that tell a lot of people on this stage what to do, and they listen to them above the people, the working people of this city. We need a change. Government wasn't designed to have career politicians that get comfortable and are used to the status quo. We got to shake this up.
Helen Gym, you are known as a member of the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party, but still the Democratic Party.
Yes, so I think my politics have been led by people's movements for more than 20 years before I ever came on to the scene in an elected office. And we're not just talking about political interests, we're talking about powerful interests, people of wealth who've long controlled city politics and have felt like things have to go their way. I've led with people's movements, including labor organizations, people who fought for schools when schools were being closed down, individuals who fought for labor rights and union organizing when they were denied, and people who've actually won. And I think that that's what people are looking for in the city, not just someone who talks about change,
Allan
but
Domb,
who does it.
I'm sure you're going to say you like competition in business, but in Philadelphia, we haven't seen competition in politics, at least when it comes to party.
Well, we have competition this time around, so it is competition. But let me say this, Matt. I think what makes me unique is that I've served in the private sector for a long time, building a business from scratch and having it successful, and also served on council for almost 7 years. I think that no one else on this stage has done both. I think that gives me a unique skill set to really help the city move forward. And this is all about leadership at the end of the day. And to answer some of your prior questions, the key to this job is going to be the next mayor has to bring everyone together, everyone, to solve our biggest issues.
So many of you have announced endorsements. It's been difficult for me to keep up with them, whether they come from union heads, elected city and state officials, former mayors. While they may mean a lot to you, Cherelle Parker, why should they mean anything to the voters?
In order to address the complex issues facing our great city, it is going to require a comprehensive intergovernmental approach. When you hear me talking about addressing the open air drug market in existence in Kensington, that means going after both drug dealers in the boardroom and drug dealers on our streets. We need access to federal and state government support in order to make that happen. And I am fortunate enough that during my tenure in the Pennsylvania House and having to work not with a choir behind me, but in a bipartisan manner, working to get to yes and reach much needed compromise with both Democrats and Republicans, I have the skill set and am uniquely situated to build the coalitions necessary to deliver for our city. So I am proud that Congressman Boyle and Congressman Evans, along with Appropriations Chairman Vincent Hughes and many other elected electeds and labor leaders and neighborhood-based leaders have said Cherelle Parker's the real choice to deliver.
Endorsements. Helen Gym.
So again, I think that Philadelphians want to see people who reflect the public interest and not the considered, the long-time political interests that have held Philadelphia back for too long. We can't go to Harrisburg and to Congress with hat in hand and expect things different. We actually need to lead many of the things that we want: affordable housing plans, investments in climate, a transformation of our infrastructure, and a real investment in our schools. That's happened actually when people have led those movements, when educators, teachers, when the politics told us no. Actually, we were the ones who did it. We never sat on the sidelines, and that's the kind of leader we need.
Jeff Brown, great to have endorsements. Some also may say, well, it may conflict with your independence if you win.
Yeah, I think the two concerning unions I didn't even want their endorsement, the building trade unions and the teachers union, who have steered us in the wrong direction. I have endorsements from working people, the unions of working people that struggle under the current political system. I'm proud of that because I represent them. I don't make any bones about it. I want to improve the lives of working people, and I want to get more people into middle income jobs.
Allan Domb.
Yeah. My whole endorsements are the people of this city, the residents of Philadelphia. I'm going directly to the residents. That's who I am beholden to, no one else. And I'm doing this, I'm independent. I'm doing this because I love Philadelphia. And I know we can do better. And I know we can get this public safety under control. We can get more opportunities and more good paying jobs in our city, have those inclusive growth neighborhoods, have more entrepreneurs in the city that can help us. We need more entrepreneurship across the board. And we need more good paying jobs. That is the key. I come from this perspective, getting more opportunity into the city for our people.
Ahmed Brown, you may have the fewest endorsements.
No, we have the largest endorsement. We have the people, and that's a fact. These public endorsements are nice, but like I said, we're tired of being ignored and overlooked and taken advantage of. The people are alive and well, and they are woke, and they're going to the polls May 16th, and they're going to pull button 34.
We've mentioned this before, Rebecca Rhynhart, former Mayor Nutter, former Mayor Street. We've heard rumblings another mayor would like to endorse you. What are endorsements worth to you?
Well, endorsements, to me, the endorsements from the two mayors are important. I'm proud to have them. But the election is going to come down to the people. And as I'm going neighborhood to neighborhood, northeast, northwest, west, south, North Philly, all over the city, that's what my message is. I'm going to make government work for you, for the people, not for any special interests. That's what we need in the city of Philadelphia.
Want to move on to another topic. I think we have time for this. The Sixers, how could we forget, want to build a new arena on Market Street in Center City, which would adjoin the Chinatown neighborhood. 76 place would cost an estimated $1.3 billion, would be privately funded. It would mean new economic opportunity, more exciting Sixers basketball, but also several known and maybe even unknown economic impacts for Chinatown. As far as we know, only Helen Gym has stated she would not support the arena if she had to decide right now. Only Jeff Brown has said he would support it right now as is, and we can get to you in a moment for this. But I want to start with Ahmed Brown. Why won't you tell us whether you support it or not right now?
Wrong. I did say I do support it.
Okay, I apologize on that. Why do you support it?
I support all major projects that are going to put our people to work, but it needs to be fair. And we need to have black contractors at the table making sure that project is moving along. And as your mayor, I will make sure minority businesses get a seat at the head of the table.
Helen Gym, you had the meeting with Sixers brass. You haven't really stated what the meeting was about. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, no, I've been very clear. I had a meeting with David Edelman, who is part of that project, but it was a general meeting. And newsflash, I actually take meetings. You know, I'm a mayor. I'm a mayoral candidate who's going to meet with people and talk about how we grow the city as well. And I'm very clear about the issues around the Sixers arena. First of all, I would contest whether it is actually going to be fully privately funded. I don't think that has been made fully clear. There are no impact studies on this issue. And I believe that neighborhoods like Chinatown must thrive in this city, and billionaires don't need tax subsidies. We should be growing our city from the ground up. We should be supporting small and local businesses, and we don't need 10 years to wait for an arena to do it. I think this is one of the issues that I have with Philadelphia, that we keep talking about projects that are so far in the distance, that require so much financing, and we don't invest and act right now to revitalize our neighborhoods.
Time because I know I mentioned you in the question, and Jeff Brown, I'll give you a little extra time as well.
Thank you. for this city to be successful, we're going to have to make bets. We're going to have to do big things. And we seem to be against, somebody seems to be against almost everything. My feeling about the Sixers Stadium is like any one of a number of other projects. It's a very big project. So far, we've been told it's going to be funded privately, not the city. It's going to have a lot of construction jobs, and it's going to have a lot of new permanent jobs. That sounds very interesting. On the other hand, we know there's issues in Chinatown. They have to be resolved. If they're not resolved, I wouldn't be interested in this project. We can't hurt a neighborhood. We have to address the problems.
Anyone else want to jump in on the Sixers? Rebecca, Rhynhart?
Yes, that in order to make a decision on a project of this size and magnitude, we need all the information. And right now, I don't think it's clear whether they will need any public subsidy. I haven't seen the numbers to prove that they don't. And we need to understand the impact to Chinatown. Chinatown is against it, and until they can get comfortable, I don't think that we can move forward on this. So as mayor, I would pull the Sixers, neighborhood associations, and others together to look at the information and see what we can do together.
And yet some voters want an answer now, Cherelle Parker.
Exactly, but the poorest big city in the nation, the leader of that city, does not have the luxury of engaging in what I call reflexive opposition. Just say no, particularly when we need job growth to put people on a path to self-sufficiency. I will have mayors, community councils in neighborhoods across the city that will give small business leaders, faith-based leaders, residents, civic leaders the opportunity to weigh in on projects like this and let their voices be heard.
And I want to finish up this topic with you, Allan Domb.
Thank you. Look, I think we love private development. We love opportunities for good paying jobs. We have to satisfy Chinatown's issues, the SEPTA issues with the train station there, and Jefferson Hospital has issues as far as getting vehicles to Jefferson. But in the bigger issue, we have to really revision from City Hall on Market Street to 6th Street. It's kind of a mess. We should have a master plan that includes the Sixers' potential new stadium, plus the African American Museum, plus the Roundhouse, and reimagine and revision what we want Market East to look like in the future.
Might have time for one more topic here. I like we get a lot of these in. A mayor of a big city like Philadelphia, you're going to have moments where you're going to need to handle a crisis, whether it's a pandemic or something unexpected. You're going to need to remain calm, collected, and you're going to need to lead. Jeff Brown, how can you tell the voters you're going to be that type of mayor?
Look at my track record. The pandemic hit. I kept my store stocked. I took care of all my customers. I didn't hang out on Zoom to keep myself safe. I protected my customers. When the unrest happened and 2 stores were destroyed, I calmly rebuilt them both within a week and gave food for free to my customers to hold them over. And in the water crisis that just came up, instead of blaming people, I made sure all the grocery chains in this city had enough water for everyone. I'm an absolute proven crisis manager, and there's no one on this stage that's close.
We can go right across here. Helen Gym.
Yeah, so I have faced multiple different crises that have involved many different communities and have helped pull people together. I'm an on-the-ground person. I talk about how crisis actually impacts how people live and what people can do in the face of it, especially when people are told by the political entities that there's nothing that's possible for them. That's how we made sure that we helped end a state takeover of our schools and put nurses and counselors and social workers back into every school. That's how I made sure that Chinatown and neighborhoods and communities could fight displacement. You need an on-the-ground mayor who works with people and galvanizes them to action.
Thank you. They call it the 3 a.m. phone call that you might get one day. Rebecca, Rhynhart.
Well, as mayor, I would be front and center with the people. In a time of crisis, the people need to hear and see and feel their leader, that their leader is there for them. And that's what I'll be. For example, if the water crisis would have happened when I was mayor, I would have been front and center. I would have told the people, this is what's happening. This is the city's plan. This is where water is going to be publicly available, not just to say, go buy some water. As mayor, I will be there to lead the city through any crisis that occurs.
Cherelle Parker.
When Dr. Height said that schools wouldn't open without an additional recurring source of revenue, I was able to secure that in Harrisburg, but I did not do it alone. Being a leader and mayor requires you to be a convener, and that includes an intergovernmental process, but it also includes the private sector. It includes the philanthropic community, and I will be unapologetic about convening in the mayor's office access to any resource necessary to deliver for our
Leadership
people.
with Allan Brown.
Yes, I want to be very clear. I get those 3 a.m. calls currently every single day, and I show up and I'm present for our city. I am not afraid of headlines. I am not afraid to make the tough decisions that we need. A lot of people are, and a lot of our leadership, they have been not present. I'm in these communities. I'm in every single community across the city, especially the communities that are impacted by violence. I am there. I am not afraid to be anywhere in this city. I'm good in any hood.
Allan Domb.
My whole life I've been a leader, and I'll just give you a few examples. At Public Safety Cabinet, calling all the law enforcement people together that I organized, including the DA and others. Also on the outdoor dining. You know, in April of 2020, the pandemic hit. Everything was doing okay except restaurants and hotels. I called a Zoom of about 125 restaurant owners, brought them together and asked them what they needed to survive. They told us outdoor dining. I also led on the tax cuts. I will tell you the tax cuts could not have happened without the diverse chambers' help and the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce. The diverse chambers made that happen.
I want to start with you on the next question, give you an opportunity for a full minute here, Allan Domb. You're the pothole commercial guy. The potholes and the trash are everywhere. Everyone knows it. Some jokingly, it's not funny to me. They call us Philadelphia. It's embarrassing. The land bank set up to transfer vacant and blighted properties to community groups and organizations has been less than successful. When during your term could voters walk around the city and say, this place is cleaned up now?
Well, first of all, I will get to that answer, but I just want to thank 6ABC for having their headquarters on the Philadelphia side of City Line Avenue. We thank you for those taxes. It's important. So thank you very much.
I'm paying some of them.
No, yeah.
So your
Thank
answer.
you. I published a public services plan. I believe I'm the only one. It's on my website. And by the way, all my questionnaires that I've answered are transparent. They're posted on my website. You can see everything on votedom.com. But in the first 100 days, I will clean every vacant lot and seal the abandoned buildings. I'm also focusing on making sure our trash is picked up on time, sweeping every street and every neighborhood of the city, making sure we fill those potholes, that we tow the abandoned cars within 48 hours of being ticketed, and we replace light bulbs and street lamps within 72 hours. And if we can't do it through the city, we'll find other ways to do it. But these are city services that will reduce crime, make the quality of life better in our city, help our local small business corridors where there's bids and others, and really help the city across the board.
Let me get a couple rebuttals here. The trash, the potholes.
Other people need to talk about what they will do. I am the only candidate who implemented, not only in my district, but a citywide program called PHLTCB, Taking Care of Business. It is a program that hires people from the neighborhood to clean our neighborhood-based commercial corridors. We're going to put that program on steroids. We will have cleaning around the clock. That will also mean that we have to double our sanitation department in order to ensure that we have enough trucks to address that heavy load. I'm proud that I've gotten something done, and it's not what I'm just saying.
We're going to try and do a lightning round here. I don't know how much time we're going to have for that, but shorter answers here. President Biden officially announced his candidacy for re-election in 2024. Will you support him? Helen Gym.
Yes, of course.
That was quick. I like it.
Not really a question for me here.
Rebecca Rhynhart.
Yes, I'll support him. Absolutely.
Cherelle Parker.
Yes, I'm a Democrat and unquestionable about who I am.
Allan Brown.
Absolutely, I will be supporting
Allan Domb.
Yes, I'll support him.
And Jeff Brown.
Yes.
That was easy. It is unanimous. First agreement all night, right? Let's talk about regionalism. I'll give you 20, 30 seconds if you want on this. I think Philadelphia has a spotty history when it comes to collaboration with the neighboring boroughs, townships, counties, whether they're on the Pennsylvania side or the South Jersey side. So when it comes to finding some type of way to communicate with these places, how would you do that as mayor, Rebecca Rhynhart?
Well, from day one of being mayor, I would reach out to the other counties that make up our region and start those conversations. I've been to the chambers of commerce in other counties. I've talked to people in our region. We need to look at this as a region, the Philadelphia region, and there's so much power in that because we are interconnected. We depend on each other, and that's the way that I'll lead in every aspect of
Were you doing enough of this while you were in council, Cherelle Parker?
Yes, indeed, I was, and I'm happy to tell you that regionalism is essential to growing our economy. Right now, President Biden, and why I support him, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, we have an opportunity to become a hydrogen hub, a place to store and or manufacture clean energy right here in our region. We need the Biden administration in order to get it done. I'm also proud of the work that I've done with the DRPA bi-state authority that manages 3 bridges. We did not raise tolls, and we did that working together.
Regionalism.
Yes, as a current state representative, regionalism is something that I do right now. I'm in consistent conversations with the surrounding county DAs, state representatives, and state senators, because what we're finding is that our crime in Philadelphia is spilling over into the surrounding counties. So I do talk, and we are planning things to make sure that our city is safe and the surrounding counties are safe.
Helen Gym, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so regionalism is a lot more than just having a bunch of people sitting around the table talking about the different titles and heads that they have. It's about actually leading a big agenda for this area. That's why I've talked about the importance of a big climate agenda that actually leans into infrastructure investments in our waterways, in our public transit systems. It's why I've talked about an importance of a collaborative effort to raise up jobs, particularly in areas where we really need it, around teaching, nursing, social work, and others, and why I think that the mayor has got to think bigger than just for Philadelphia.
I think we can do 15 for Jeff Brown and Allan Domb if we could, time permitted.
I'll do it quick. Look, I do it now in my business. I have stores in most of these counties, and I work with those leaders. And I'm also chairman of the State Workforce Board and in the Convention Center Board, which both are regional operations or statewide operations. And I work with them, and their thinking is a lot different. You have to be a problem solver to do
Allan
this.
Domb, jump in.
Regionalism is important. 40% of our workforce lives in the suburbs. We need to embrace them. But I would have quarterly meetings with our regional chambers of commerce and leaders in the region. But here's the other thing. They're the suburbs. They are a sub of the urb. We're the urb. Where all the fun happens. They have to recognize
sorry, I got to
that.
cut you off. We have our next segment. Candidates may ask another candidate a question, whomever you want. You can ask yourself, I guess. Cherelle Parker, we're going to start with you. A candidate and a question.
Helen Gym. Helen, during our tenure in the City Council of Philadelphia, you were a very strong advocate in opposition to the people of South Philadelphia and in Kensington. You were a strong advocate for safe injection sites. However, during this campaign for mayor, you have not publicly proclaimed whether or not you support safe injection sites or you are against. So do you support them? And if you support them, in what neighborhoods would you put them?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for that opportunity to clarify, Cherelle. I've made very clear that the mayor's job is to save lives, and I will not take any medically viable option off the table. There have been almost 1,200 people who have died every single year of this opioid crisis. It is inhumane, and we are becoming dehumanizing to one another because of it. But I've also made very clear that I do not believe that that is the thing that we start with, nor is it the thing that is going to solve the opioid crisis and the dehumanizing situations in Kensington. It's why I've leaned in very much so on leading a public health first, community-led vision for how we're going to end the open-air drug markets that are so dehumanizing, how we're going to make sure we reclaim every single civic space, how I'm leading on crisis response teams that actually reach out to individuals on the street and bring them into new forms of housing and recovery, treatment, and care, and how I'm absolutely going to take care of young people in that community neighborhood, making sure that there's safe passage. There will only be community buy-in in the work that I do and community collaboration.
Question for another candidate.
Yes, Rebecca. In one of your latest campaign ads, you called 2 esteemed African-American men, or former mayors, boys. Is that indicative of how you would prioritize African-American men, given the current environment?
That's not true. I didn't call them that. So that's just not true. It's not true.
Could you elaborate exactly what was said, Ahmed Brown, that you say?
Everyone's seen the commercial.
It's not true.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. Allan Domb, you have a question for a candidate.
I have a yes or no question for all the candidates.
I don't think we can do that.
It's really quick. All right, I'll ask one.
I think it would be unfair because
Okay, I'll ask one.
it's changing the rules. So just ask one question, please.
I'm going to ask this question to Jeff Brown. In 2015, Jeff, I was considering running for mayor until I met with a political expert who said to me, government is very different than being in business, very different. Different set of skills, different, everything is different. And convinced me not to run for mayor, but to run for council. And I learned that it was very different. I spent almost 7 years in there. Why do you think that having that training maybe would not be beneficial to you to be our next mayor?
Well, I think over the 6 or 7 years you've been in council, you got sucked into a system that has actually left us in a crisis. And I haven't heard anyone up here take responsibility for any part of this crisis. And I think you get groupthink and you start to accept things that we shouldn't accept. And I think that's why we need an outsider. I think the advice Allan got was bad advice.
Jeff Brown, you have the next candidate question.
Yeah, this city's in a tremendous crisis, and I'm standing with a lot of political leaders that had prominent positions. I haven't heard any of them take responsibility for the bad decisions that were made. I would like to ask any one of them that has the guts to stand up and admit to the mistakes they make.
Specific candidate.
And I'll ask Allan Domb.
Okay.
For bad decisions that were made? Can you elaborate which decisions you're referring to?
I'll let you do that, Jeff Brown.
Yeah, well, to start out with.
And make it brief if you can.
Yeah. To start out with, Allan Domb, when he first started, he put a bill in to double the tax abatement to 20 years. I mean, we're fighting to eliminate it. I mean, how does that make sense?
And let me explain to you why I did that. The bill, if you read the legislation, Jeff, the bill said for homes under $250,000 to create more home ownership in the city, to create generational wealth in the city. I wanted to help those people who are buying homes for under $250,000 to gain home ownership, because that is the key for generational wealth. The average wealth of a tenant is $4,000 to $6,000. The average wealth of a homeowner is $200,000. My goal is to create generational wealth in every neighborhood of this city, and I felt the $1 million plus didn't need it as much, but under $250,000, if you read the bill, that was what it was for, really. It was really to help people gain that generational wealth.
Helen Gym, you have an opportunity to ask another candidate a question.
Yeah, I'll ask Rebecca Rhynhart. So Rebecca, I believe that budgets are moral documents. It's why mine invests in schools and city services that were slashed in an administration that you served under. You had talked a lot about how things like closing fire stations actually saved the city money, when we should have been talking about how they saved lives. So my question to you is, how can Philadelphians trust that in a time of when we have to make strong budget choices, you will actually support them, and how do you defend your record?
Well, thank you for asking that question, and let me set the record straight here. I was the city treasurer from 2008 to 2010 when those decisions were first made. As the city treasurer, I was managing the city through the greatest financial crisis since the 1930s, making sure that the city could pay its bills. That was my job. I became the budget director after that, and I worked for a mayor who wanted to keep the brownouts. So I did my job to convey that message. That is also why I decided to run for office in 2017, to have an independent voice, to stand up for people, and to push for more investment into rec and library. And that's what I proposed as city controller. And that's the way that I'll lead as mayor.
Okay, and Rebecca Rhynhart, you finally have an opportunity to ask another candidate a question.
Okay, I'll ask Helen a question. The rate of black-owned business in the city of Philadelphia is very low, low compared to other cities. And we are 3% of the metro area's black-owned business. The African American Chamber of Commerce advocated for a reduction in the business income and receipts tax That is a tax that taxes gross receipts and net profits. It's a burden. You voted against that tax increase that they wanted. Can you explain that?
Yeah, well, I've been very clear that I believed in a targeted tax cuts. I don't believe that the $11 million that was saved by the BERT, which overwhelmingly went to the largest corporations in the city, was the best way to support Black and brown and local businesses and small businesses in particular. I would absolutely support an increase in the exemption on the net profits for BERT to make sure that more businesses were freed of that tax. I've made it very clear that I would support opportunity and equity funds targeted towards Black and brown businesses and local businesses as well. And I've also made very clear that we need to have an engaged and really devoted approach that targets these investments towards the areas that we need. But we have overwhelmingly pursued processes that have had no clear impact on whether they would actually increase jobs or make a difference. That's why my effort was really mostly looking at targeted efforts that would be responsive and that would actually benefit the businesses that we claim that we would do, and not just be a mask for big corporate benefits.
Thank you. Allow you to take a quick breath here. We're still going, though. This may be the most efficient debate ever because we're giving you 1 minute for closing statements. It's a new record. So we're going to start for all of you. Jeff Brown, your closing remarks for this mayoral debate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here tonight. This city is in the worst crisis that I could recall in my lifetime. And I don't know about anybody else, but I blame the political class for this. I think their decisions were poor. They're not prepared when things go wrong, like they didn't have masks for their workers. That's a disgrace, lack of preparation. We need change in this city in the worst way, and I don't believe anyone else running is prepared to make the kind of changes we need. I'm up for this change. I've made transformational changes in my business, my nonprofit, and my government appointments, and I have a love for Philadelphians. And I will not let them suffer another 8 years, which is exactly what's going to happen if we have the same old type of elected officials we've elected before.
That is Jeff Brown. Thank you very much. And now we're moving on to our second candidate for closing remarks, Helen Gym.
Thank you very much, Matt. So I've made it very clear that, again, Philadelphia needs a really transformative vision right now. It needs somebody who has been active and on the ground leading Philadelphians through different crises that have been faced with a really different way of how we tackle things. Not how to manage a crisis, but actually how to end one. It's why I believe that many of the candidates here are offering ideas that are just too small for this moment right now. Talking about public safety only in terms of policing. Talking about jobs that are only in terms of tax cuts. I'm talking about how we can deliver a mayor that actually leads from the ground up, that talks about making sure that we fix our crumbling school systems with a big, bold vision for investments that are going to excite private supports and excite state and federal investments as well. It's why I've talked about a guaranteed jobs program for individuals who are most at risk of violence. We've had almost 4,000 kids drop out of school last year. We cannot afford to leave our families and our communities behind. I have led that from day one, and I'm ready to lead it as mayor.
That's Helen Gym. Thank you very much. And now moving on to Rebecca Rhynhart. Closing remarks.
We need a mayor right now with the right experience and courage to lead our city forward. I am the only one on this stage with city executive experience. I can hit the ground running on day one to fix the city's issues. And I've shown the courage to lead our city. We need to make tough decisions. We need to make sure that our city is safe, not moving backwards to law and order policies that were racist, but not staying where we are with chaos on our streets. We can move forward in a way that is safe and just. We can do both. That's the way that I'll lead as mayor. I'm not afraid to take tough stances, even if it's not politically popular. That's what we need in a mayor. That is the way that I'll lead. We have an amazing city, our arts, our culture, our sports teams, our neighborhoods, but we need the right mayor, and I want to be and I will be that leader. Thank you.
Rebecca Rhynhart, thank you very much. Now we move on to closing remarks with Cherelle Parker.
Thank you so much, Matt. I am unapologetic and wholeheartedly believe that we have the ability to make Philadelphia the safest, cleanest, and greenest big city in the nation that provides access to economic opportunity for all. I am proud of my lived life experience and that the most pressing challenge facing our city, I've lived through it. In addition to that, my intergovernmental experience at both the state and the local level uniquely prepares me to bring together the coalitions necessary to solve problems. Philadelphia, I am not an auditor and or a departmental manager. I am a leader. You will elect me, your 100th mayor, to convene public sector, private sector, local, state, federal government, and neighborhoods to make Philadelphia a 21st century city, and we can do it and be the best at it. Thank you.
Cherelle Parker, thank you very much. Allan Brown, closing remarks.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Philadelphia, my lived experiences and everything I've been through in life has prepared me for this moment. Being a survivor of gun violence, one of 7 children in a home that people shouldn't be living in or growing up in. Being a self-made entrepreneur who had its ups and downs. Experiencing deep poverty, and then becoming a successful entrepreneur. Philadelphia, I took the hits for you. And as your mayor, you will not have to take those same hits because I took them. And I vow to protect you, each and every community, and everybody will have a seat at the table and have access to government. The division ends on May 16th. Push button 34. Thank you, Philadelphia. I love you.
Allan Brown, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And finally, closing remarks with Allan Domb.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting. Thank you to United Way for hosting in 6 ABC, and also Coast & O'Connor for sponsoring this. Look, Philadelphia is in crisis. We have a crisis of public safety. We have a crisis of affordable housing, low-paying jobs. We have a crisis of education and poverty. The biggest crisis we have is a crisis of leadership. This is all about leadership. It's about checking your ego at the door, bringing people together to get the right outcomes. I have a different experience in life, so I have a different vision. I've spent a ton of time in the private sector, and I've spent time in government getting things done. And I can hit the ground running on day one to accomplish what we know has to be done and getting things fixed that we know are broken, like public safety and other issues. I'll provide the leadership to create opportunities for every Philadelphian and public safety in every neighborhood for every citizen of this city. My lever is number 38. Please vote Allan Domb. My website's votedomb.com. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
Candidates, thank you. I enjoyed our discussion. Really appreciate you being here. May 16th, Tuesday, is Pennsylvania primary day. That is the day to go out and vote. I'd like to also thank the members of the audience for keeping you cool the whole time, and also our sponsors, United Way and the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia. Most importantly, I want to thank you, the viewers who tuned in to watch this program. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we are leaving you better informed with your decision. I'm Matt O'Donnell. I'll see you on the Monday Morning News.